Welcome to True Projects. In this video, we are going to explain about the project which is hybrid undersampling and oversampling for handling imbalanced credit card data. So before getting into the execution, first let us understand what is the project about. So we all know, right, that growth of e-commerce has really transformed the way we shop. These days, more and more people are doing their shopping online, and credit card have become the go-to payment method for many. But with the increase in the digital transactions, we are also seeing the rise in the fraudulent activities, which is pretty concerning. Fraud can lead to significant financial losses and also the personal risk for both the individuals and also the businessmen. It really shakes the trust that customers have in service providers. When people worry about the security of their transactions, it can create a lot of hesitation in using online services. That's why having effective fraud detection systems plays a crucial role. They play a pivotal role in protecting privacy and ensuring the customers feel confident when making purchases. It is all about making sure people can shop online without worrying about safety of their financial information. But one of the biggest problem we face in fraud detection is imbalance issue. It is the imbalance in the credit card transaction data. Basically, there are more legitimate transactions than the fraudulent ones. So there are more legitimate transactions than the fraudulent ones. Because of this, many detection models end up leading towards the majority class, that is legitimate transactions. This can be a real problem because it means that models often miss those rare instances of fraud, leading to a lot of false negative cases. So, to tackle the challenges in detecting credit card fraud in the imbalanced data sets, in this project, we are proposing a technique called a hybrid sampling approach using TOMEC links and BIRCH clustering broadlines mode technique. So, this by using this hybrid approach, we can achieve the better balance in the data set, which helps improving the model's accuracy in identifying fraudulent transactions. It's a promising way to enhance the fraud detection overall. So the process starts with using the TOMEC links to focus on the majority class by undersampling it and getting rid of any noisy data points. This really helps to reduce the overlap between classes, making it clear where the boundaries are. After this, we use BIRCH clustering approach to group the remaining data, which helps organize it better. Next, we apply Bees mode, that is broadlines mode technique, to oversample the minority instances. This is important because it targets those instances that are close to the decision boundaries, which are crucial for accurately identifying the fraud. So, for the detection purpose, in this project, we are incorporating the random forest classifier. So, this hybrid approach does a great job of balancing the data, reducing noise, and ultimately improving the model's ability to differentiate between the legitimate transactions and the fraudulent ones. It really enhances our chances of catching the fraudulent effectively. Moving on to further improve the performance, in this project, we are incorporating an advanced ensemble approach called voting classifier. So this method it combines the predictions from the multiple individual models, which really helps in creating a more robust and accurate final prediction. By bringing together the strengths of different models, we can improve the overall performance metrics if significantly. And additionally, we have developed front-end using Flask framework. So we have developed front-end using Flask framework. This front-end is crucial because it allows users to test the system and interact with it as easily. We also incorporated user authentication mechanism to ensure that the environment is secure for monitoring the transactions so users can engage with the fraud detection system smoothly, making it not just effective but also user friendly. Moving on to the implementation of the project, we have implemented the project in the following steps, which are in the flow of work. So, first, we have imported the required packages in the project. Then, we have loaded the credit card data, and then we did exploratory data analysis to understand the structure of the data. And then we moved to data pre-processing where we have converted the data into pandas data frame and then we dropped unwanted columns, irrelevant columns. Then we visualize the data set using the Seaborn and Matplotlib libraries. And then we converted categorical variables into numerical vector using this label encoder technique. Then we selected the important features from that and we have done sampling using different techniques. So we did sampling using SMODE technique, Beast mode technique, ideas in sampling technique, SMODE to make sampling technique, Smootine sampling technique, and the hybrid BIRCH broadline smooth sampling technique. Moving on, then we split the data into train and test sets. So train set is used to train the models and test is used to evaluate the models. Then we built multiple individual models. So all the individual models are trained on the data set, are trained on the oversample data set. So these are the techniques which are used to sample, right? So all this individual sampling text and all the models are built. So after that, we evaluated all the models built using accuracy, precision, recall, and F1 score. And we have compared them using graphs. And we developed front end using Flash framework along with the SQLite3 database, which is integrated with the SQLite3 database. And then users, they will be able to give feature values in the front end, and that feature values will be pre-processed at the back end. And to that data set, to that feature values, trained model will be predicting the outcome, that whether the person has transaction has been fraud or not. Moving on to the algorithms used, these are the four algorithms built in the in the project. So we have built random forest, boosted decision tree, extra tree, extension voting classifier. Among all the algorithms built, we observed that voting classifier has got the highest accuracy, so we have deployed it in the front end to predict the credit card fraud transaction. Moving on to the requirements, to implement, we need basic hardware and software requirements. So in hardware, we need operating system of Windows, processor of 5 and above, RAM of 8 GB and above, and hard disk of 25 GB and above. And software requirements we need is application of Anaconda, primary language Python, front-end framework Flask, backend framework Jupyter Notebook, database SQLite 3. Front-end technologies are HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Bootstrap 4. So now let's execute. To execute, we need to open the code folder which contains source code files. So these are the source code files in the code folder of the project. Let's understand each of them. How will they be used in the project? So coming to this folder, in this we have the dataset used in the project. So this is the dataset used in the project to predict the credit card fraud. So this is the last target column. These two are the target columns. And these are the independent variables which are important for predicting the credit card fraud. Now let's close this, get back. This is the static folder. This folder consists of files related to CSS, JavaScript, and Bootstrap files, which are important for the visual appeal of the project. Coming to templates folder, this folder contains all the HTML pages used in the project. It typically includes files like index.html, about.html, etc., which represent different pages of the website. And in this app.py file, this .py file contains the information related to front-end logic of the project. It includes code written in Python that handles server-side operations such as processing user requests, interacting with the database, and generating dynamic content to be rendered in the HTML templates. And here we have two model files which contain the algorithm information, and this will be loaded into the project code during runtime. Coming to notebook.ipynb file, this is a Jupyter notebook file which contains a combination of code, graphs, and outputs all in one place. It allows users to write and execute code in individual cells, which makes it a popular choice for the data science. And in the signup.db file, this file is a database file which is used to store the user information. And coming to the sample file, here we will be having the test cases that we will be using in the front end to predict the credit card fraud. So these are the test cases we will be using in the time of execution in the front end. So to predict the credit card fraud, minimize it. Now copy the path of the code folder from the address bar of the file explorer. So I'm copying the path. Now open the Anaconda prompt. It is open. Now use the command cd followed by the space, paste the copied path. Now click on enter. So this command, it has changed current directory to the code folder's path. Now we need to compile app.py file. So give the command python space app.py. Now click on enter. This command, it will execute the Python script and perform and check for syntax errors and logical issues. And after app.py file runs, it will host the application at the default address, which is the local host and the port. So this is the local host and this is the port, unless configured differently. So now copy this local link provided by the Flask framework and paste it in any web browser. So I'm copying the link. I prefer Google Chrome, so I will paste it in that. Paste the link here. At the end, click on enter. So this is the web page of the project, which is displayed in the browser, and this is developed using Flask framework. So we need to register first. So click on register and enter all the registration details if you are registering newly. I have already registered, so I'll directly sign in. So click on sign in, give your username and the password. Now click on login. We have logged in successfully and we are redirected to prediction page of the project wherein we need to give the input parameters. So the first parameter which we have is type. So this specifies the nature of the transaction such as cash in, cash out, debit, payment, transfer, indicating how funds are being handled. Coming to this amount, this represents the specific monetary value involved in the transaction, indicating how much money is being added or deducted. Coming to the old balance ORG, this denotes the account previous balance before the transaction occurs, providing a reference point for how much money was available. Coming to new balance ORG, this indicates the updated account balance after the transaction is processed, reflecting the change in the funds resulting from the transactions. Now let's enter this. For that, let's open the sample file. We have opened it already, so let's keep it aside. So let's try with the first test case where the type of the transaction is transfer. So the amount is 1,67,872 rupees and the old balance is also same and new balance is 0. Now click on predict. So the given input will be pre-processed at the backend and the model trained will be giving the prediction that credit card transaction happened and it is fraud, which means that this particular transaction is a fraud transaction. Now let's try with the other test case. Click on prediction. So let's try with the second test case where the type is debit and amount is 12,007.27223 and it is the same old balance. New balance is 0. Now let's click on predict. So here we got the prediction that credit card transaction happened and it is fraud. That means that this particular case is a fraud transaction. Let's try with the fourth case. Click on prediction. Type is cash in. Amount is 65,677 and the old balance is 3,78,896.52 and the new balance is 4,44,567.92. Now click on predict. So based on the given information, here we got the prediction that credit card transaction happened and that is not fraud. That is a legitimate transaction. Let us try with one more test case. So let's try with this test case where the type is payment, amount is 1,860.2, old balance is 56,541, new balance is 54,680. Click on predict. So here we got the prediction that credit card transaction has happened, but it is not fraud. Now let's try with the one more test case. Click on prediction. Let's try with this cash out case where the type is cash out, amount is 181 rupees, old balance is 181 and the new balance is 0. Now click on predict. So here we got the prediction as credit card transaction happened and it is fraud, which means it's a fraud transaction. In this way, just by giving the parameters to the system, to the application, the algorithm will be able to predict whether the transaction is legitimate or fraud transaction. Let's check with the graph. So click on graph. So here, first graph which we have is the sample outcome graph, where on x-axis we have the classes of the project, that is classes of the data, and on y-axis we have the count of that particular class. 0, it refers to the non-fraud transaction and 1 refers to the fraud transaction. If you observe, a light blue color line you can observe for the one, that is one target class, that is fraud transactions. And by looking at this graph we can understand that there is huge class imbalance. That is why we have incorporated the hybrid sampling approach. Moving on, this is the correlation matrix which shows the correlation between the variables. And here we have accuracy, precision, recall, and FN score graphs. And these accuracy, precision, recall, and FN score are the metrics which are used to evaluate the classification models. Here on x-axis we have the accuracy score, and on y-axis we have all the algorithm names. And here, if you observe, voting classifier, which is combined with the hybrid balancing technique, is achieving the highest accuracy than the other models. And this is the precision comparison graph. This is the recall score comparison graph. This is the FN score comparison graph. Now log out. In this way, by using the hybrid oversampling technique, that is hybrid balancing technique, and machine learning models, we will be able to accurately detect the credit card fraud. This will be useful for both the customers and also the businessmen.
Thank you for watching video. For more projects, please visit our website www.trueprojects.in. For updates on latest project videos, please visit True Projects YouTube channel and subscribe.